Hi everyone, it's Killshot99 Gaming. This is The Walking Dead Season 9, Episode 9, Michonne Mystery. So this is a big topic of conversation. I want to thank each and every one of you being here tonight. This is a topic that was brought up by our Patreon supporters, and I do want to announce a couple new supporters yesterday, Robert Frank and also Julie Smith. Thank you so much for being a part of the channel, being part of the Patreon Army and the 999 Army. So it wasn't unanimous, but a lot of the patrons want to discuss this tonight. It's been coming up in various forums, so we're going to get into it. Before we get started, I do want to give a special shout out to Valar, who says, "Hello, 999 Army, Kill Steph, Kels, Emmy, Sweet Tommy, sponsors, patrons, and of course, all of our super chatters that spice up the conversation as well." So let's jump into it. There's a lot of different ways we can approach this, whether it's talking about the X's, whether it's talking about the attitude, whether it's talking about the potential, the future, whether or not Denai is going to stick around the show. I guess that could be something that we talk about as well. There are theories out there by yours truly that I don't know. I don't know if she has the incentive to stick around, but one thing I do know is this picture is not a random... I don't feel like it's a random walker killing unless she's just so frustrated she can't... find any clues looking for Rick, and then she's just taking her frustration out. So that could be part of it. It could be a whole bunch of, nothing, going back to the scene and finding out a little bit about what went down. But I think there is a little bit more to it. I'm not going to go full-scale mystery. I think she's out there murdering people, but I do think there could be some retribution. Scott Kernan says, "Kills, first off, pike the like button, Army." I'm down with you. I agree with that. My first question, pick your 8 people you think are due for the pikes. There will be 8, as we know. Are you sure you won't go back to 11? Scott, 8 is a high number for me just to throw out there right off the bat. So one of them will not be Michonne. How about that? I'm going to have to think through that a little bit. I can give you 3, but after 3, I'm going to have a hard time with it. Because I do think that one of the 2 that are kidnapped, probably Alden, I think Alden's going to go, and I think Ezekiel and Rosita. That's as far as I can go at this point. I think there's going to be a whole bunch of B characters sprinkled in with that. But we'll do a Pike stream if you guys want to. Maybe that'll be something we talk about tomorrow, and we just kind of do our death predictions. I would say 2 from all 4 communities. Well, I think some of them are going already. I have a feeling that there's some problems with a few of the ladies from Oceanside. If this is not Michonne killing some walkers to take out her frustration, see, this could be something as simple as she just is pissed. Or it can be something that somebody did wrong and she was exacting her revenge. So I'm going to give you 2 different scenarios. I mean, I don't think there's enough clues out there to come up with something definitive. However, you guys know what we do here. How many people are familiar with the funnel philosophy? Hopefully you are. Because we created it. So don't expect to get every single answer to every single question. We don't have enough clues. So what we start to do is you come up with 4 or 5 theories, and we gradually weed them out based on the visual evidence, so on and so forth. So more stuff will come out. This is kind of an introductory discussion around the Michonne mystery. Huh? What do you mean, huh? Angie, clearly this is not your first stream. If you know about the funnel philosophy, it's when we started talking about Rick being attacked, maybe it was a savior, maybe it was a helicopter, and we put about 4 or 5 theories out there, and we funneled it down to the helicopter. That was the only logical explanation. So we're going to start talking about some things that could have happened over the last 6 years. I think to do that, we've got a couple clues that are very obvious. They're right in front of us. This picture doesn't really tell us anything, except the building in the background, where it could have taken place. This could be the kingdom, it could also be the area where Arat was killed, right? That little schoolyard or whatever that area is. It looks more like that to me than it does the kingdom. And that's why I kind of thought Oceanside. Maybe there's some of them are still hanging out there. That's where, the Simon thing went down, and maybe Michonne has a bone to pick with a couple of them for what they have done. Westwood Chronic says, I never liked those Oceanside girls. They were a bit too murdery for me. Murdery? That's hard to say. Yeah, they have their reasons because of what went down. So maybe Michonne wanted to exact some revenge. But once again, we're going to throw a few different things out there that could be possibilities, and we'll sort of weed it down. So let's talk about X, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about X's. Because it's the X's and O's. So I got a super chat, and Scott says, we have 74 more days till Walking Dead returns as of... Thank you, Scott, for the countdown. All right, Scott, we're counting them down too. But now we're going to transition into Michonne and the Michonne topic. So the X's. I put a couple different things out there about what they could be. And some are just crazy. I've heard transplants, organ transplants. I've heard RJ was a twin, and only RJ was born, and there was difficulties with Michonne. And then when we found out Daryl had the X, then it was like, I'm thinking like, what, did Daryl have twins too? No. I mean, there's some silly theories out there. And some people just gravitate toward the silliness. So the more I think about it, I think it is there is an article on this to where people, look, there's some darkness in branding too, so I'm not going to go down that route. I understand. I understand there's honoring, and then I understand there's captivity. So it's a touchy topic, but I think in this situation, there are no tattoo artists hanging around. And, hey, you want to get some ink? No. And I think this is the way that it's either a show of support or it is a mark to demonstrate which group you're from, which are you Alexandria, or are you permitted to be with this group? So I think it's more of an honorary thing. And with Daryl, I got a feeling there's people that pledged their allegiance and wanted to show their support for Rick. And I think there's people that didn't want to go down this route. I mean, I'm just going to throw this out there. It's one theory. Maybe this is going to be a silly one. June Smith in the Voice of Kills. Hold on. I said, hello, 999. What's up, June? Thank you for being here. June, hopefully you're not missing Rick quite as much these days. Well, see, Pickles, here's the thing. It's like, it doesn't matter. If I say it's to honor, there's going to be 20, 30% of the group's going to say, nope, it's darker. If I say it's darker, there's going to be people who say it's to honor. So we got to kind of latch on to one. So let me explain again the way the funnel philosophy works. We talk about a possibility, and then we table that, and then we talk about another possibility, and then we table that. It gets confusing when we talk about a possibility, and then 5 other people talk about 10 other possibilities before we exhaust all the evidence that we have for the first possibility. You guys following me? I know. Let me get to that in 1 second. Northside Queen. What happened to the little girl? Forgot her name that disliked Tara from Oceanside. I think it was Rachel. Rachel, she was on the walkie-talkie. She's one of the ones that was involved in that scene where they, the radio scene, where they were tricking them. So I assume she's still around. But it's a good question. What happened to a lot of the Oceanside? And what happened to a lot of saviors? And we can't really pinpoint it on, who's Michonne killing here. There's no real big character that's missing except for some of the Oceanside. So I guess there would be that. So Scott says she's more emotional in the photo, in this photo than in the present. Well, remember how Michonne was getting up at night killing walkers and it was sort of her stress relief? I could see this right after Rick dying, of her just going out and trying to extinguish every walker from the face of the earth. If it weren't for these walkers, do you remember the fight scene when Carl was shot? Do you remember what Rick and Michonne did? Doesn't this kind of seem like a callback to that? Like, just go out and let's just kill all of them? So, that's a possibility. Just keep that in mind. All right. So this looks like she's going nuts and she's just losing it. Now, if that happens early on, and she wanted a way to pay tribute to Rick. Now, when I say Rick was hurt in the side, and I did say this, and I said I think this mark, this location, is honoring what happened to Rick, and also the fact that we've only seen 2 marks, and it is the 2 closest people to Rick, would lend some credibility to the fact that it has to do with Rick. Now, when I said that initially, the first thing I got was, no, they had no idea that Rick was injured because Rick's gone. And I disagree with that, because they were in plain sight of Rick. Daryl probably rode up and down that path many times. They saw Rick limping. They saw Rick bleeding. They knew he was hurt. So I'm sure they found his belt. And then they pieced it together. They found the horse. They found the blood on the horse. All of those things. Maggie yelling he's hurt. Everything says that they knew he was injured. So I think it stands to reason that that is paying tribute to Rick. And you kind of hear Michael Cudlitz say, it's a dark story. Well, that's why dark doesn't mean, I've heard dark that, there was another war and they were attacked by somebody else and they were tortured. I think if we're going to do a rating system, the odds of that happening are pretty low. That there was a whole other group that came in the last 6 years and they had to fight again. It looks like they've been building. So we got Angie Homan says, someone she knows perhaps. Back to the Michonne photo. So, Angie, I think it's one of two. It's either somebody she knows and somebody that she has to either kill or put down, or she's just out there trying to take a whole lot of them out. If there were not walkers, I think Michonne will probably have to blame the walkers to keep from blaming Maggie and Daryl. Now, is it possible that Michonne has some ill will, that Michonne, and don't answer this from the current state of things. Answer this from when Rick left. Is it possible that Michonne went after Daryl? Maybe didn't try to kill him, but you know how when you get upset at somebody, you just kind of want to punch them, maybe that type of thing. Do you think Michonne had it out with Daryl, and Daryl decided to get out and try to spend his life looking for Rick? Leave your thoughts to that. Got a couple more super chats I got to jump into. We've got Scott Kernan. Michonne and Daryl have exes. I think they saw each other recently before this. I feel as if their relationship is closer than Michonne is with Carol. Scott, I think it's interesting. It's kind of counter the direction that I was just going. Is certainly they could have made amends. But I'm not sure that there was not some blame. Well, anytime I talk about Daryl and I say, there's blame, then people's like, yeah, you're going to blame Daryl for everything. No, I just want to talk about what led to this. We're going to get into that in 1 second. So, William Finney's talking about the markings, puffy and thick. It's a brand. All of Rick's true followers have it. So, William, that is one of the third theories that I want to go with. Is there frustration? Perhaps people refuse to, I don't want to say it sounds so sacrilegious, take the mark. They refuse to take the Rick brand. And when I think about it like that, it seems a little corny, that Michonne would be up there saying, all right, everybody's going to stay in Alexandria. You're going to have to take the mark of Rick. Boom. And no, that pokes a little bit of holes in the funnel for me. And I mean, William, I definitely want to entertain it because it was one of three options that I thought about. But I think it would be more of a choice. I think it would be more just, you got something in common, you get a tattoo. Maybe Michonne and Daryl were sitting over a couple beers talking about all the good moments that they had with Rick. And then, hey, let's get a tattoo. Daryl just like out of the blue, just, okay, let's do it. Not everybody does want a scar. But, if you talk about forcing 3 different communities to honor Rick Grimes, I just think that's a little silly. That's where my theory kind of runs out of steam. That's why we talk about it. American Pride Quadruple 7 says maybe Michonne angry with Daryl and Maggie because they let Oceanside kill that savior. I think that's one, and that definitely dishonored what Rick wanted to do and what Michonne was working on. I'm certainly, there's no doubt that I think there were some hard feelings. Scott Kern in 9/8, she seems as if she saw Daryl recently. So, good point. So maybe she did see Daryl recently, and not everybody agreed with it a couple minutes ago. I've been jumping around because we had some super chats. As soon as Rick died, does this look like the look that Michonne would have had right after Rick died? Yes or no? I want to get everybody into the mind frame. Because the problem with the show and analyzing the show is a lot of times we speak in the now. And we got to go back to the past. We got to go back to 6 years prior. And this looks like a person who just lost everything. Now, let me give you another scenario. Does this look like a person that just found out she was pregnant, confirmed she was pregnant, and realized that Rick is not going to be there to see his son? Yeah, that's deep and that's emotional. We're going to take that to a whole different level. It just hit her how empty the world is going to be and how disappointed Rick is going to be of not seeing it happen. That's what I see. I see in this scene, I see the pain of loss, the unknown future, and the struggle that she's going to have raising Judith and raising this child without Rick to be there. Scott says she knows Daryl wasn't responsible. Maggie was. Neither were responsible for Rick's death, in my opinion, Scott, but they were both deceitful. You don't kill somebody for being deceitful, but you can have a little bit of blame. And I think it's fine to have a little bit of blame because they manipulated and they steered Rick to a different direction. They killed the Saviors. They wanted to kill Negan, and they misled Rick in doing so. I mean, that's just the reality. Commodore, if you don't respect Rick's death, I got 2 words for you. One of them probably ends in U, I would imagine. And, that's the same argument you could make. I mean, look, there's a butterfly effect, right? Everything that happens on Walking Dead, you could pin back to, well, if they wouldn't have been building the bridge, or if they wouldn't have been doing this, or if they would have killed Negan in the first place. I mean, everything's cause and effect. I get it. But we got to deal with the most recent cause and effect. And I think if that's the case, it was wrong for Maggie to take, and in my opinion, it was wrong for her to take the law into her own hands. But it was also wrong for Rick not to kill Negan. So you got to look at both things. Rick should have killed Negan at that moment. But then once they locked him up, I don't agree they should have killed him. And that's the fine line that we have to walk here about how it all went down. And I think the writers did a good job. In that moment, DDA Ohio, thank you so much. Appreciate that super chat. And if you got a follow-up comment, moderators, if you guys can look out for that. And, hey, not everybody agrees with this, but here's my thought, is there was a fight going down, Rick and Negan. Everybody watching it. Maggie wanted it to end. Rick should have done it. He didn't. Maybe he had the foresight to think, all right, we're going to lock him up. This is going to prevent a lot of stuff from happening, which it didn't, because a lot of stuff still happened. So he's trying to honor Carl's vision. And as Daryl even said, Carl's dead. You got to let him go. It probably would have been more beneficial for Rick at that moment to kill him to satisfy Maggie, and I think most of the Saviors would have been okay with that. They would have got on board. But once he healed him and locked him up and did all those things, then at that point, Maggie had to understand you got to leave him alive. And she did. She finally got it. So, we got to where we were going to get in a real weird sort of way. But there were a lot of sneakiness. There was a whole lot of wheeling and dealing going on behind the scenes and these little cliques doing their thing. And I feel like this is Michonne just found out she was pregnant. And there's just that emptiness. And I'm going to go with that for now. And I think she's just out there killing. I don't think she's killing anybody of relevance or value. I could be wrong. We'll find out when we see a flashback. But I've seen her go beast mode and kill a lot of walkers before, but this time she's actually got tears in her eyes. Casey, I don't know. One, I would say, ultimately I think she's going to be happy. But I also think it's a reminder that Rick's gone. And she lives with that every single day. She's out there trying to find any clue she can. We saw the opening credits where she was out there and she found the sheriff. Crawfish, it's a WWE DX reference. It means for you to, okay. I can tell you I'm not up to my WWE. I've been away from it for a little while. See, this is exactly it. So Lewis Grimes says she looks like she's killing someone she doesn't really want to kill. So based on that, we get zero confirmation out of this picture, except for we probably have 3 possibilities. So I'm going to kind of table that because we're not going to be able to decide whether she's killing somebody she knows, killing somebody she hates, she's frustrated, she's just venting, she's upset because of the current situation. There's no way we can deduct anything other than 3 or 4 scenarios out of that. So what we can do is we can tie that in with some of the dialogue that's taken place. So we know for a fact that Michonne really? Here. This is what happens if you can't type more than 1 sentence per line, then I'm going to give you 5 minutes to think of how to type a complete sentence. And then after that 5 minutes, if you'd like to rejoin our chat, Magnum, then you can type a whole line. If not, then it's all good. All right, so I completely lost focus there because there's a whole lot of one-line spamming going on. Well, I'll tie it into the overall thought that I was going with. Michonne with the other communities and the fact that she doesn't want to let people into the communities. However, she does want to give these people the opportunity to go to Hilltop. So, even though people want to super chat, it's distracting, OU. So, we'll see you back in a few minutes, hopefully. Because I want to stay on topic. She's not aware that Maggie is not at the Hilltop. And people have been hiding this from her. So even when she's taken Magna and her group up to Hilltop, then we know that there's going to be some resistance. She says, I'm kind of, don't know how Maggie's going to react. So there's some history with the two of them. And people have been working behind the scenes in order to have the relationships. We've seen Jesus and Aaron having conversations. So they didn't want to be segregated. They didn't want to be in separate groups. So my question for the group is, what is she so worried about with Maggie? And I guess she thinks that Maggie is going to be there forever. That would lead you to believe that more went down, like it's a little mini civil war. I don't know if it's that extreme, though. Because Michonne did kind of take Maggie's philosophy, right? Alexandria first. So Miss says Maggie did something bad. Or did this whole Rick death just separate everybody? So Viola says something very bad happened between the groups. So what potentially could have went down? Because we don't appear to be missing anybody major. That's kind of the wild card to all of this. I mean, you'd think if it's conflict and then it escalated, that there would be a lot more death. Yeah, Michonne did find out, but she only found out like last episode, so it's been 6 years. Westwood says maybe Maggie wanted to kill the rest of the Saviors. Possibility. And Michonne still kind of holding on to Rick's legacy and not wanting to kill. It's possible. American Pride says maybe Maggie tried to take over Alexandria. Well, American Pride, that is interesting. Let's do this. Let's look at the relevance of the people who are in each community. Sadiq, Aaron, and Michonne. Maybe Michonne is the one who burns the bridge. Possibility. I mean, she is the one that is going to be the most emotional. But I just think it's interesting that Michonne, Maggie was about taking care of Hilltop, and then they control the trade. They'll do what they want to do. And then Michonne sort of adopted that kind of, I'll say selfish. You guys know what I mean by it. I don't mean it in a critical type of way, but that us first attitude. But look at the people who stuck around, and I think that's the relevance. So you've got Ezekiel and Carol and Jerry, pretty much the kingdom. You'd expect them to be the kingdom. And they want to rebuild, and they got their own resources. But why is Aaron in Alexandria, and why is Tara at Hilltop? Wouldn't you think that those two would have been flip-flopped? I just want to see a few of the comments, because I think the way the groups broke down, Rosita, I see Rosita being at Alexandria, but why is Tara, why exactly? They were forced to pick a side, and I think that's the relevance. So what we have to do, if we really want to get down to this mystery, is it's not about Michonne, and it's not necessarily about the exes, although the exes could play into it. We've got to look at each of the characters and say, why do they live where they live? What's the relevance of them being there? Got Christopher Sage with a super chat says, could all the graves in the trailer Hilltop be connected to what went down between the communities connected to Michonne? No signs of Oceanside. So yes, there are a lot of graves there. But once again, just because there's a lot of graves there, who is missing? Which major characters are missing? And I just can't find them. There's some Oceanside people missing, but other than that, it's not like, where's Tara? Where's Rosita? Cindy. Cindy is kind of the only one, but yeah, maybe. I just don't see, unless the Oceanside attacked Alexandria, I can't come up with a storyline of why that would, if they attacked Alexandria, they deserve to die. But why would that create a civil war between the groups? So I'm kind of, if we need like 10 points, to come up with a theory, I'm not, all of these are just a little bit weak in one way or another. American Pride said, Alexandria has a panel of lawmakers, Hilltop only one person, perhaps difference of opinion on how to govern. Well, I think you might be onto something. We have a monarchy. We have a dictatorship. And we have a democracy. I could very well see 3 different forms of government being the problem. There's some people that want to live in a situation where the king makes the rules. There's going to be some that Maggie makes the decision. She is judge and jury. And there is a council. Very, very good observation. Ecom says, does Georgie only have a deal with Maggie at Hilltop? It appears so. It appears that she's had more of an interest in Maggie's abilities. William Finney, super chatting, says, Michonne is the one to burn the bridge, but that's why the show is going to be different than the comics, and Alexandria survives because she takes care of Rick's true followers. It's a twist in the TV comics. Yes, or is that pride, William, that she's so confident that they can make it work if they take care of themselves, and maybe they're the first to fall, or the second to fall, that they will realize in order to survive they need each other. I think that's probably a bigger storyline, that they're going to need help to defend Alexandria. But I think it's a good call out. What do we got? We got Steph, the Cuervo Queen, moderator super chatting. Possible X while she was pregnant by another threat. That would be scary. Definitely. Unless they got the marks after the pregnancy. Maybe after RJ was born. Her and Daryl out hunting one day and just decide to get some tattoos. Yeah, I'm not... I think everything that we come up with right now feels a little weak, to be honest. I mean, there's some theories that I feel really good about. Like, I really feel like Negan's going to bury Lucille. But this X thing, I got to be honest with you, it's got me a little bit baffled. 1189 Paris says, Michonne wanted to put the women at Oceanside to trial for killing those saviors. The council and who is on the council, certainly important. And, even newcomers that come in. They have to go to a council vote, but Michonne kind of walked out on the council, which pretty much led everybody to believe, like, okay, we have a council, but if she says do whatever you want, then sort of shot a hole in it. It was almost like a real adult version of pouting when she walked out on the council, and I think it kind of made her point. A couple more super chats to jump into. Got Jimmy's Jam and says, Michonne knew Rick was injured, but she didn't know how or who may have injured Rick. Is it possible that she blames Maggie, Daryl, or Carol somehow? Jimmy, I think it is implied that we all know and they found out about the rebar. I really think that somebody's going to track it back to that spot, see the blood on the horse, and I think as viewers, they didn't have time to show everything, but I really do think the writers want us to make the assumption that they tracked it back to the rebar and they all found out that Rick was punctured. That I feel pretty comfortable with. June Smith says Tara equals Glenn equals Maggie, Aaron equals Alexandria, Michonne, Carol equals Daryl equals the king, There goes your communities. Whoa. That's pretty deep. I'm going to have to sort that out. I'm going to have to take a picture of that and get to the bottom here. Tara, Glenn, Maggie. Aaron, always with Alexandria. And Michonne. And Carol. And Daryl and the King. Yeah, and Daryl's just kind of... He has the X, and it looks like Daryl might be kind of free to go wherever he wants to go. Daryl's got like a pass. Jennifer Flaherty says, I'm at work. We'll watch the replay. Thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate the super chat and at least listening to a little bit while you're at work. All right, scrolling here. Getting a couple comments in. DDA Ohio kills. There are 4 clues about what happened between Alexandria and the other groups. Negan's story about the stray dog. When they introduced a new group, there's a comment about strangers, and they zoomed in on a savior. We haven't seen Oceanside. And number 4. Dun, dun, dun. New actors from Oceanside are listed in IMDb. I can get around that. But, yeah, Oceanside was mentioned by the teenagers, and dude said he wanted to go down there and learn how to fish. Or, you're right, E-Beach. And I think at this point with Oceanside, we haven't seen them. We saw some additional graves. It's probably more of a limb that we go out on that. I'm just catching up on a couple of my notes here, everybody. Hold tight. So, how do you feel about the reaction between Tara and Michonne and the reaction between Michonne and Carol? And I'm going to jump back into these super chats. Because there's a clear battle between Hilltop and Alexandria that doesn't exist. The kingdom is just kind of like that neutral ground. But some people have had to choose between the Hilltop and between Alexandria. And I need to know why. I think we can get to the bottom of that. And why people made those decisions. We'll be closer to figuring this thing out. I got... Rob Smith Krause says, Michonne says to Sadiq, at least they're alive, to hate me for it. This is the one line that bugs me the most. She did something to save them that they didn't want. Yes, and Sadiq even says, like, if the kingdom falls... You know, what good is with Alexandria? And he says, she says, well, at least Alexandria will still be alive. You know, something along that line as well. So certainly making tough decisions. But Rob, we're going to have to drill down with that one as well. I think that's part of the big mystery. Ecom says maybe Hilltop had all the food and others stole it. Well, we'd have to go to the mindset of the Hilltop. Maggie was controlling a lot of the supplies. But was there anything, let's go through and look at cause and effect. Jed kind of, took the tomato. Maggie was cutting off some of the supplies with the sanctuary. Those two stories didn't really go any further because the Oceanside were going to kill the men of the Saviors regardless. So, different plots. Is Michonne upset at the ladies from Oceanside because of what they did to the Saviors? And how could she be any more upset with that than what Maggie did to Gregory? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know there's a story there. I mean, a lot of super chats have been focused in on that. I'm just struggling with it. I'm struggling, with a way to... I don't think anything that happened up to what we saw is going to shine a light on that. Because, remember, the last... the last scene, well, the second to last scene and the last scene we saw was Michonne moving to the side and letting Maggie go in to talk to Negan. So, I think that Michonne probably, if we're going to make something out of the past, Michonne probably blames Maggie for the whole visit to Negan, and Rick would not have been in that situation. Can you guys see anything outside of that would cause, other than just new stuff that we haven't discovered? Because it doesn't appear there were any good scenes between the two of them. They were standing face to face. Michonne steps to the side, said, you know what? Basically, you're going to kill him. But then the next time we see them is when Rick's on that bridge and Maggie and Carol basically holding Michonne back to keep her from dying. I don't think at the end of that scene, they all got together and said, hey, this is, thanks for restraining me. I think that from that moment, Michonne is probably like, you know what? If you would have never been on your way here, if you would have just let Rick's way go through, he wouldn't have been out there trying to stop you. He wouldn't have been in a panic. So, that's the only backstory I can put together with all of that Michonne has just harbored this blame. And Scott, I agree with that. She certainly feels as Rick's death was for nothing. And then if we look at the people who and why they chose where they chose, well, the kingdom wasn't a part of Alexandria anyway, so the kingdom has stayed neutral. So, why would Aaron be in Alexandria as opposed to the hilltop? Because Aaron's been Alexandria. He's like the last man standing from Alexandria. Why would Tara go to hilltop? That's probably a bigger question. So I think the question I would ask you is, what's Tara doing in hilltop? Tara had a house in Alexandria. What's Tara doing in hilltop? And I know, look, maybe it was burnt down by Negan. But where's what does her being there mean to the split? Got a super chat. Scott says, because Maggie didn't kill Negan, nothing mattered. Yeah, both have their own different reasons and rationale. Maggie needed him dead, and then she walked away from it, and then, Rick's whole purpose just got undermined. That's a good point. Drama's like, what's Tara doing anywhere? Yeah, but of all the people who seem out of place, Tara is the one that seems out of place. Enid is in Hilltop. She's the doctor up there now. She had attachments to Maggie. I get it. Jesus, Jesus is from Hilltop. I get it. Maggie was running Hilltop. Rosita, I would just think that Tara should have been, unless it is a plot hole that they had to put somebody up there because they knew that Maggie was leaving the show and Jesus was dying, and they're like, hey, Earl's not running the Hilltop. It'll be free drinks for everybody. Drinks on the house. No, I mean, yeah, maybe I'm just kind of looking too much into it, that Tara being up there had nothing to do with the past. It's just they needed somebody to take over. Yeah, I mean, she's going to be one running the show. Yeah, I mean, I think you got a good point, and I don't know that I would go as far as to say love interest, but Tara and Cindy had a bond. So maybe Michonne did have a reason to kill Cindy, but why Cindy? So if you guys are going to go down that road, we're going to put that as a theory. Okay, if Michonne killed Cindy and then Tara's like, okay, look, I'm just not going to be around it. I'm going to Hilltop. Why? What reason would Michonne have for killing Cindy? Scott says we could see Jesus in a flashback episode. Possibly. I mean, I'm sure they could bring him back, and they could bring back a few other people, but maybe it'll be the Jesus story, and we'll see a little bit more martial arts, so those that are upset that he didn't get to fully utilize his character, we get to see him in a time skip. Maybe. Westwood, Michonne was upset with Maggie for taking their star player, Tara. No, she probably was not. That probably made life much easier in Alexandria. Well, I see some people saying that Cindy started the chaos. Cindy's the one that killed the Savior. But Cindy says Maggie showed her the way. Kitty Cat, perhaps during time skip, Alexandria had another war. Kitty Cat, I got to tell you, I don't feel that. Look, it's possible. I just don't. I don't think that there was another attack and another group of people. It looks like life has been fairly normal. There's people and love and raising kids and building their houses back up. So here, I'm going to throw this out there. How about, and a couple of you might have mentioned this, but I'm going to go with this point. American Pride says maybe kicked out Saviors attacked Kingdom. Maybe the X is related to that, and Michonne still kept Negan alive. So, close. That was American Pride. That's what I was getting ready to go with. Something similar to that. There you go, Leanne. That's what I wanted to hear. That a few of the Saviors have been killed. Michonne could not kill Negan, which is where we left it. Rick has just died. And now the group is weakened. And the Oceanside girls figure it's the best time to get the problem, and that is Negan. And Michonne takes them out. And there's a rift between Maggie and Michonne because Maggie would probably be upset. Wait, you can kill the people that tried to kill that monster, but you can't kill the monster? So that actually feels like a more solid theory than some of the other kind of babbling that I've been doing back and forth with this. But yeah, I mean, we haven't seen the Oceanside. We see additional graves. Tara took the girls from Oceanside because she had a relationship with them, and that's why we have all those graves in Hilltop, and Tara stayed at Hilltop afterwards. So Tara, who has been a part of Alexandria, had the only connection to Oceanside. Oceanside wanted to kill Negan. Michonne killed them all, or someone from Alexandria killed them all. Tara took the bodies back, buried them at Hilltop, and there you go. All right, I'm good with that. Are you guys okay with that? At least for now. Look, we'll get bits and pieces, but that feels like a backstory. Now, look, the branding, that just might be some additional information. We got Crystal, the singer chick. Michonne saying, this is how we treat each other, and this is what we do when we don't. Maggie and Oceanside should have been punished. Choose your side. Well, Maggie didn't kill Negan, but she got the opportunity. I got a feeling that Oceanside, if they get the opportunity, they would follow through with it. So, if the Oceanside tried to hit Negan right after Rick's death, when people were grieving and it was weak, Michonne would have went full beast mode and protected Negan. Because if you think about it, Negan at this point is really, well, Negan and RJ are the last examples of Rick's future. So it's super important that Michonne does not let somebody kill Negan after this. Now, she might have let Maggie do it when Rick was alive, but now that Rick is dead, I fully believe that if anybody came to attack, that Michonne is going to defend him. Sorry, I'm trying to catch up with some chat. We're kind of all over the place. And yeah, guys, sorry to hear that. I just saw that posted in the stream. So, our thoughts and prayers are with your family. And I'm telling you guys, it is a tough transition. I know there's tragedy that happens, and it's hard to segue into another topic when you get that. But we're thinking about you and your family. American Pride says it's possible Oceanside put the X's in them. Do you think it's possible that Oceanside attacked and marked Michonne and Daryl? You know what? I find that harder to believe. No. Hang on. Give me a second, guys. Hey, guys, hold off on the Jeff thing. First of all, I want to say this, and I want to say this with utmost seriously, and you're going to get this. So, if that happened with Jeff, and I know a lot of people are just catching up in chat, and this kid just said he had a loss in his family, and then came in and said his mom is Rick. In my experience, and I'm going to say this, most people that just experience a tragic event do not come into a live stream and say that. So be careful, number one. And number two, you just kind of get that. So move on. And that's why it's kind of hard. You want to give somebody the benefit of the doubt. But in most cases, someone that just had a traumatic event doesn't come into a live stream and draw attention to themselves, especially something that. And I will tell you, the last thing that I would do is if I just had a death in my family, I wouldn't come into a chat while it's going on and say, hey guys, guess what? I just had a death in my family. And it's unfortunate that you distract something, get people's attention. So with that, everybody, we're going to wind the stream down. I think we've had enough distractions for tonight. We will be back. We'll do this again at 9:30. And thank you so much. I appreciate everybody's sincerity and your interest. And unfortunately, there are just a bunch of asshats out there that like to get involved in other people's stuff and draw attention to themselves. Sorry for the interruption. We will do this again tomorrow night. Thanks, everybody. And appreciate all the patrons that are here. Appreciate all the super chatters, all the moderators, everything that you guys do. And I am really, it's really unfortunate that our stream got interrupted by something like that. I will talk to you all tomorrow night. Thanks. Peace.